The silver polish bottle slipped from Elena Reyes's trembling fingers, clattering against the marble floor of the penthouse's grand dining room. She'd been working since 6 that morning, her third double shift this week, and exhaustion had carved itself into her bones like a familiar ache. "Careful with that," Monica's voice sliced through the quiet, sharp and mocking. "Mr. Salvatore doesn't tolerate carelessness from the help." Elena bent to retrieve the bottle, her dark curls falling forward to hide the flush creeping up her neck. Monica Chen stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, her supervisor's uniform pressed to crisp perfection. Behind her, 2 other housekeepers lingered like shadows, Jessica and Tanya, both wearing expressions Elena had learned to recognize over the past 8 months. Anticipation mixed with cruelty, the look of people who'd found their entertainment for the day. "I'm sorry," Elena murmured, returning to her polishing with renewed focus. "It won't happen again. It better not." If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Monica stepped closer, her heels clicking with deliberate precision. "You know, some of us have been wondering how exactly you got this position. The Salvatore penthouse is the most prestigious assignment in the entire building, usually reserved for staff with seniority and impeccable references." Elena kept her eyes down, cloth moving in careful circles across the already gleaming silverware. She'd heard variations of this conversation at least once a week since her transfer here. The other staff couldn't understand how a 24-year-old with barely 2 years of experience had landed the top-floor assignment, working directly in the home of Dante Salvatore, one of Chicago's most powerful and mysterious businessmen. If they knew the truth, it would be so much worse. "Maybe Mr. Salvatore appreciates hard work," Elena said quietly, knowing even as she spoke that engaging would only make things worse. Jessica snorted from the doorway. "Hard work. Is that what they're calling it now? Girls? Girls?" Monica's voice took on a false sweetness that made Elena's stomach clench. "Let's not jump to conclusions. I'm sure Elena earned her position through completely professional means." She paused, letting the implication hang in the air like smoke. "Though I have to say, those late-night shifts when Mr. Salvatore requests you specifically do raise questions." Heat flooded Elena's face. The late-night requests were real, but not for the reasons Monica was suggesting. 6 months ago, Dante had found her crying in the service stairwell after her younger brother's medical bills had doubled. She'd been terrified of losing the job that barely kept them afloat, even more terrified that Carlos would have to drop out of his physical therapy. Dante had stopped, listened, and then quietly arranged for Carlos's bills to be covered through a medical charity fund. Elena later learned he'd created specifically for that purpose. He'd ask nothing in return except that she keep it private. He didn't want others knowing about his acts of generosity, didn't want to appear soft in a world that punished weakness. But somewhere between grateful glances and whispered conversations in empty hallways, something had shifted, transformed. What started as kindness became something neither of them had planned, something dangerous and impossible and achingly real. They'd been hiding it for 4 months now. Secret meetings when the penthouse was empty, stolen moments in the early morning before the other staff arrived. A relationship that would destroy her reputation and complicate his already precarious position in Chicago's underground power structure. Dante Salvatore couldn't afford the appearance of weakness, and dating the help would be seen as exactly that. "I work the late shifts because Mr. Salvatore keeps unusual hours," Elena said, forcing her voice to remain steady. "He prefers the penthouse maintained even when he's working late." "Oh, I'm sure he prefers lots of things maintained." Tanya's laugh was cruel and knowing. Monica circled closer, her perfume cloying in the afternoon light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. "You know what I think, Elena? I think you've gotten too comfortable up here, too confident. Maybe you need a reminder of your place in the hierarchy." Warning bells clanged in Elena's mind, the same instinct that had kept her safe through years of navigating difficult situations. She set down the silver piece carefully, slowly straightening to face the 3 women who'd positioned themselves between her and the exit. "I need to finish the dining room," she said quietly. "Mr. Salvatore returns at 6, and everything must be perfect." "Oh, but it's only 2:30. Monica checked her watch with exaggerated care. "We have plenty of time. In fact, the girls and I were just discussing how we never properly welcomed you to the team. We've been so remiss in our duties as your colleagues." Jessica moved to block the doorway entirely, while Tanya drifted to Elena's right, completing a loose triangle formation. Elena's pulse kicked up, adrenaline sharpening her senses even as exhaustion weighed on her limbs. "That's really not necessary," Elena said, keeping her voice level despite the fear crystallizing in her chest. "I appreciate the thought, but I have work to complete." "But that's exactly it." Monica's smile was all teeth and no warmth. "We want to help you with your work. Make sure you understand the full scope of your responsibilities. You see, there's an informal tradition among the housekeeping staff, a sort of initiation for anyone who gets promoted above their station." "I wasn't promoted above anyone," Elena protested. "I was transferred based on my work performance." "Transferred," Monica repeated, tasting the word. "Right into the most coveted position in the building, bypassing staff who've been here for a decade. Can you see how that might breed resentment?" Elena could see it, had been seeing it in every sideways glance and whispered conversation that stopped when she entered a room. But understanding their anger didn't make this situation less dangerous. "I'm sorry if my assignment caused problems," Elena said carefully. "But I didn't request the transfer. I go where I'm assigned." "Oh, we know you didn't request it," Tanya spoke up, her voice honey-sweet with malice. "Which makes us wonder who did request it. Who might have pulled strings to get a pretty young thing installed in his private residence?" The implication landed like a slap. Elena's hands clenched at her sides, nails digging into her palms to keep from responding the way she wanted to. She couldn't defend herself without revealing the truth, and the truth would destroy everything. "Mr. Salvatore has never behaved inappropriately toward me," Elena said. The words technically true even if they obscured the reality of their relationship. "If you have concerns about assignment protocols, you should take them up with management, not me. But where's the fun in that?" Jessica's voice carried from the doorway. "Besides, Monica is management. She can handle this however she wants." Monica pulled something from her pocket, the sound of tearing adhesive loud in the suddenly tense silence. Elena's eyes tracked the movement, her breath catching when she saw the roll of silver duct tape in Monica's hand. "You know what I think?" Monica's voice had lost all pretense of friendliness. "I think you talk too much. I think you've been running your mouth, telling tales, maybe even making accusations about how you're treated here. Maybe it's time someone taught you the value of silence." "I haven't told anyone anything," Elena said, her voice rising despite her attempts to stay calm. "I don't know what you think I've done, but you're wrong." "Am I?" Monica stepped closer, and Elena instinctively backed up, finding herself pressed against the dining room table. "Because funny thing, last week Mr. Salvatore's personal attorney asked HR for a full report on staff treatment protocols. Very specific questions about workplace harassment and bullying. Now who do you think might have prompted those questions?" Elena's mind raced. She hadn't said anything to Dante about the other staff's behavior. She'd been careful to keep her work problems separate from their personal relationship, not wanting him to feel obligated to intervene or to make things worse by showing favoritism. But Dante was observant, dangerously so. He read people the way others read books. Had he noticed the tension? Seen something in her face during one of their late-night conversations that revealed more than she'd intended? "I didn't file any complaints," Elena said truthfully. "I don't know anything about an attorney or HR reports." "Maybe not directly," Monica conceded. "But you've been whispering in the right ear, haven't you? Getting cozy with the boss, making suggestions, playing the victim. Well, guess what, princess? We're done being nice about your little manipulation game." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs as Monica tore off a strip of tape, the sound obscenely loud. "This is assault. You can't just... Can't I?" Monica's smile was vicious. "Funny thing about this penthouse, no security cameras inside, per Mr. Salvatore's strict instructions. He values his privacy too much, which means whatever happens here stays here. Our word against yours. And I think we all know whose word carries more weight." "This is insane," Elena said, her voice shaking now as real fear flooded her system. "It's just a prank, Monica. Nothing serious. Just a little reminder about your place." But Monica's eyes were cold and calculating, holding something darker than pranks or jokes. "Besides, you'll be fine. Mr. Salvatore doesn't come home until 6, remember? That's hours away. Plenty of time for you to think about how you've gotten too big for your britches." Jessica and Tanya moved simultaneously, grabbing Elena's arms before she could react. She struggled, but they were prepared, strong, working in coordinated efficiency that spoke of planning. "Let go of me!" Elena's shout echoed off the high ceilings. "This isn't funny. Stop!" Oh, now she's worried about being loud. Tanya laughed. Where was all this spirit when you were sneaking around, spreading rumors? I didn't spread any rumors. Elena twisted in their grip, managing to free one arm before Jessica yanked it back with bruising force. Hold her still, Monica commanded, approaching with the tape. This'll be so much easier if you don't fight. Elena's training from her childhood in a rough neighborhood kicked in. She brought her heel down hard on Jessica's instep, earning a yelp of pain and a momentary loosening of the grip. She lunged forward, trying to break free entirely, but Tanya was ready, tackling her backward into the dining chair. The chair tipped, sending both women crashing to the marble floor. Pain exploded through Elena's shoulder as she hit hard, but she kept fighting, kicking out even as Tanya tried to pin her down. Jesus Christ, just hold her, Monica snapped, moving in to help. 3 against 1. Elena fought with everything she had, but the outcome was inevitable. They wrestled her arms behind the chair back, someone's knee digging into her spine to keep her immobile. She felt the tape wrap around her wrists once, twice, 3 times, binding her to the chair's carved wooden supports. No, please, Elena gasped, still struggling even as they moved to secure her ankles to the chair legs. You can't do this. He'll what? Monica crouched in front of her, eyes glittering with triumph and something uglier. Fire us? Doubtful. We've all been here longer than you, have spotless records, multiple witnesses to back up whatever story we want to tell. You, on the other hand, are a nobody who'll be lucky to find work cleaning toilets when we're done with you. This is assault, Elena repeated, hating the tremor in her voice. You'll go to jail for this. For a prank? Monica's laugh was sharp and brittle. Honey, this is just coworkers having fun. A little hazing. Nothing serious. Sure, maybe we got carried away, but you were being so dramatic about it. Fighting, screaming, acting like we were actually hurting you when we were just playing around. That's not what happened. Monica pressed the tape over Elena's mouth mid-sentence and cutting off her words. The adhesive pulled at her skin, tight enough to hurt, sealing her lips completely. Elena's eyes watered, panic clawing up her throat as her breathing suddenly felt restricted. There. Monica smoothed the tape with false gentleness. Much better. You look so much prettier when you're not running your mouth. Elena made a muffled sound of protest, straining against the tape binding her wrists. The chair creaked but held firm. Now, Monica stood, brushing imaginary dust from her uniform. I think this is an excellent teaching moment. You're going to sit here for a while and really contemplate your behavior. Think about how you ended up in this position. Consider whether playing games with people's livelihoods is really worth it. Jessica checked her watch. We've got 3 hours until Salvatore comes home. Think she'll learn her lesson by then? Oh, I think 2 hours should do it, Monica said thoughtfully. We'll come back around 4:30, untape her, help her fix the dining room, and nobody needs to know anything happened. Right, Elena? Elena shook her head violently, making more muffled protests behind the tape. I'll take that as agreement. Monica smiled. Come on, girls. Let's give our friend some time to reflect. They moved toward the door, and Elena's panic spiked. She couldn't be left like this. Even if they came back in 2 hours like they promised, anything could happen. The chair could tip over. She could struggle free and hurt herself. The tape over her mouth was already making it hard to breathe properly through her nose, and if it got any worse, she made desperate sounds, trying to convey the danger, but the 3 women were already in the hallway. Oh, and Elena? Monica poked her head back in, her expression almost cheerful now. Try not to make too much noise. Wouldn't want to disturb the neighbors, though I suppose you couldn't even if you tried. The door clicked shut. The lock engaged with a soft snick that sounded impossibly final. Silence descended, broken only by Elena's harsh breathing through her nose and the distant hum of the penthouse's climate control. She was alone, bound, gagged, and utterly helpless. The dining room clock marked 2:45, 3 hours and 15 minutes until Dante was supposed to return. 3 hours and 15 minutes to sit here in growing panic, testing the tape's hold and finding it unbreakable, working her wrists until they burned and bled, feeling her breath grow shorter as fear constricted her chest. The tears came then, hot and furious, streaming down her face to dampen the edges of the tape. She'd been so careful, so cautious about keeping their relationship hidden. And now, because of nothing she'd actually done, she was trapped here like an animal, humiliated and afraid. What if they didn't come back? What if this was worse than a prank? What if Monica's hatred ran deeper than she'd realized? The woman's eyes had held something venomous, personal, excessive beyond workplace resentment. Elena forced herself to breathe slowly through her nose, fighting down the panic that threatened to spiral out of control. Hyperventilating would only make everything worse. She needed to stay calm, conserve energy, and wait. Wait for rescue that might not come for hours. The minutes crawled past with agonizing slowness. Elena alternated between struggling against the tape, which accomplished nothing except making her wrists raw, and forcing herself to stay still to conserve strength. The dining room windows showed the Chicago skyline in afternoon light, the city continuing its business completely unaware of her situation. Her shoulders began to ache from the awkward position. Her wrists throbbed where the tape cut into her skin. The adhesive over her mouth felt tighter with each passing minute. Her breathing increasingly labored. At 3:15, she heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Hope surged, immediately followed by shame. She didn't want to be found like this, didn't want anyone to see her so helpless and humiliated. But anything was better than being left alone much longer. The footsteps passed by, continuing down the hall toward the service elevator. Not rescue, just someone going about their normal work. Elena's head dropped forward, exhaustion and despair washing over her in equal measure. The clock marked 3:20. Still 2 hours and 40 minutes until Dante's expected return. Unless Monica and her friends had been lying. Unless they'd never planned to come back at all. That thought sent a fresh wave of panic through her. She renewed her struggles, twisting her wrists, trying to work the tape loose despite the pain. The chair scraped against the marble floor, the sound loud in the empty penthouse. Then she heard it. A different sound. Not footsteps in the hallway, but something closer. The distinctive beep of the penthouse's private elevator engaging. The mechanical whir of its ascent. Elena's breath caught. That elevator only went to this floor, and only 4 people had access codes. Dante, his attorney, his head of security, and the building's owner, who never visited without advance notice. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Footsteps crossed the entry foyer. The sound unmistakable. Expensive leather shoes on marble. A confident, measured stride that Elena would recognize anywhere. Dante Salvatore had come home early. And he was about to find his girlfriend bound, gagged, and humiliated in his dining room. The footsteps paused. Silence stretched for several heartbeats. Then they resumed, faster now, heading directly toward the dining room with frightening purpose. Elena couldn't see the doorway from her position, couldn't see his face when he first caught sight of her, but she heard the sharp intake of breath, the muttered curse in Italian that she'd learned meant someone was about to have a very bad day. Then he was there, moving around to face her, and Elena saw an expression on Dante's face that she'd never witnessed before. Not anger, though that was present. Not concern, though worry darkened his dark eyes. This was something colder, deadlier, more terrifying than simple rage. This was the face of the man Chicago's underworld feared, the man who'd built an empire on calculated violence and absolute control. The man who protected what was his with ruthless efficiency. Elena. His voice was deadly calm as he knelt in front of her, hands already working at the tape on her wrists. "Don't move, Amore. I've got you." The endearment, spoken where anyone might hear, told her everything about how far beyond caution this situation had pushed him. His fingers found the edge of the tape binding her wrists, and he began unwrapping it with surprising gentleness given the fury radiating from every line of his body. "This is going to hurt," he warned. "The tape's been on too long. It's going to pull skin. I'm sorry." He wasn't apologizing for the tape. He was apologizing for whatever he was about to do to the people who'd put it there. The tape came free with burning pain that Elena barely registered through her shock and relief. Dante moved to her ankles next, working with the same controlled precision. "When I remove the tape from your mouth," he said quietly, "I need you to tell me exactly who did this to you. Names, Elena. I need names." She couldn't nod with the tape still in place, but her eyes must have conveyed agreement because he nodded in return. And then, his voice dropped lower, taking on an edge that made her shiver despite her trust in him. "You're going to tell me why I wasn't informed that my staff has been treating you badly enough to escalate to this." The tape on her ankles came free. Dante rose smoothly, moving back to face her. His hand cupped her jaw with infinite gentleness, thumb brushing her cheek just beside the tape. "This will hurt," he said again. "Breathe through it. Ready?" Elena managed the tiniest nod. Dante pulled the tape away in one swift motion, the pain sharp and immediate. Elena gasped, working her jaw, tasting blood where the adhesive had torn at the corner of her mouth. "Monica Chen," she rasped, her voice rough from restricted breathing and unshed sobs. "Jessica Park and Tanya Williams." They said it was just a prank. Said they'd come back to let me go, but Dante, I don't think. He pressed a finger gently to her lips, silencing her. How long ago? 2:45. About 45 minutes. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to see me like this. I didn't want— Stop. The word was soft but absolute. You have nothing to apologize for. Nothing. His hands framed her face, thumbs wiping away tears with devastating tenderness. But I need you to answer me honestly. Has this been happening regularly? Has my staff been harassing you? Not like this, Elena whispered. Just comments, implications. Nothing I couldn't handle. I didn't want to cause problems or make you feel like you had to protect me. I didn't want them to use our relationship against our relationship. Dante's laugh was bitter and sharp. Cristo Santo, Elena. You were protecting our secret while they were planning this. I didn't know they'd go this far. Monica said something about an HR investigation. Thought I'd reported them. But I swear I never am. You didn't report them. Dante's voice took on that terrifying calm again. But I did. Last week I instructed my attorney to conduct a full review of staff treatment protocols. I've been watching, Elena. Seeing the way they look at you. The way you come to me some nights with shadows in your eyes you think I don't notice. Elena's breath caught. You knew? I suspected. And I should have acted sooner. Should have removed you from their reach the moment I recognized the pattern. His jaw clenched, the muscle jumping beneath his skin. This is my fault. I left you vulnerable to protect an image that means nothing compared to your safety. Dante. No. Yes. The word was final. He pulled out his phone, fingers moving across the screen with sharp precision. Marco. Penthouse. Now. Bring security footage from the hallway cameras. I need to know who entered this apartment between 2:30 and 3, and I need to know where they are right now. He paused, listening. His eyes never left Elena's face. I don't care about privacy protocols. Get me the footage. Another pause. No, she's not seriously hurt. But that's going to change momentarily, and it won't be her. He ended the call and immediately dialed another number. Morrison, it's Salvatore. I need you to put 3 members of my domestic staff on immediate administrative leave. Monica Chen, Jessica Park, Tanya Williams. His voice could have frozen flames. Yes, right now. Pull them from whatever they're doing and escort them to HR. They don't speak to anyone. They don't return to their stations, and they certainly don't leave the building. Elena's hands trembled as she tried to push herself up from the chair. Her legs nearly buckled, muscles cramped from the prolonged restraint. Dante caught her instantly, phone still pressed to his ear, his free arm wrapping around her waist to steady her. Because if any of them walk out those front doors before I arrive, he continued into the phone, I will hold you personally responsible for obstructing what will become a very serious investigation. Do we understand each other? The person on the other end must have agreed because Dante ended the call and finally allowed some of the rage she'd seen in his face to bleed into his voice. They put their hands on you, he said, low and dangerous. They tied you up. They taped your mouth shut and left you alone where anything could have happened. Left you terrified and helpless in my home where you should have been completely safe. I'm okay, Elena said, though her voice shook. I'm okay now. You're bleeding. He touched her wrist gently, where the tape had torn skin. You've got bruises forming. Your breathing is still labored from the restricted airflow. His other hand came up to cup the back of her head, pulling her against his chest. You are very far from okay, Amor. But you will be. I promise you that. Elena buried her face in his shirt, breathing in his familiar scent of sandalwood and something uniquely him. What are you going to do? What I should have done the moment I realized they were making you uncomfortable. Dante's voice rumbled in his chest. I'm going to make sure they never work in this city again. I'm going to press criminal charges, and I'm going to make it very clear that touching what's mine comes with consequences they can't imagine. People will find out about us, Elena said. If you press charges, if you make this public, everyone will know. Good. The word was absolute and final. Let them know. Let the entire building know. Let every member of my staff and every business associate and every rival family in Chicago know that Elena Reyes is under my protection. That she's not the help. She's mine. He pulled back enough to look down at her, his dark eyes burning with an intensity that stole her breath. I'm done hiding you, he said. Done pretending you're just another employee. Done leaving you vulnerable to people who think they can hurt you without consequences. His thumb traced her jawline. You're going to move into the master suite. You're going to quit your job with building services. And you're going to let me protect you the way I should have been all along. Dante. Don't argue with me right now, Elena. His voice gentled slightly. Please, I just found you bound and terrified in my dining room. Let me have this. Let me take care of you. Before she could respond, the private elevator chimed again. Footsteps approached rapidly, and Marco Santini appeared in the doorway. Dante's head of security took in the scene with professional efficiency, his expression darkening as he processed what had clearly happened. Boss, Marco said quietly. Security footage shows all 3 women entering the penthouse at 2:42. They left at 2:53. I've already pulled their personnel files and current locations. Where are they? Dante's voice was silk over steel. Morrison has them in conference room B on the 22nd floor. Building security is posted outside the doors. Marco's jaw tightened. They're claiming it was just a prank. Harmless hazing that got out of hand. Harmless. Dante repeated the word with deadly precision. They bound her to a chair. They taped her mouth shut. They left her alone for nearly an hour with no way to call for help. No way to free herself. Barely able to breathe. Does that sound harmless to you, Marco? No, sir. It sounds like assault, false imprisonment, and possibly attempted murder depending on how the DA wants to play it. Elena flinched at the words. Murder seemed excessive, but looking at the situation objectively, if something had gone wrong while she was alone and unable to call for help, the implications made her stomach turn. I want the police here, Dante said. Not building security, actual Chicago PD. I want this documented properly. Photographs of Elena's injuries, statements taken, the 3 women arrested and charged. Dante, wait. Elena found her voice. If you call the police, this becomes official. It goes on record. Everyone will know. Everyone will know that I don't tolerate anyone hurting you. Dante cut her off firmly. Everyone will know that there are consequences for treating my people like this, and everyone will know exactly what you mean to me. His hands framed her face again, forcing her to meet his eyes. I know you wanted to keep this private, he said softly. I know you had reasons for hiding what we are, but Elena, those reasons just tied you to a chair and left you to suffer. Those reasons nearly gave you a panic attack because you couldn't breathe. Those reasons made you feel like you couldn't come to me when people were making your life hell. He pressed his forehead to hers, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. I won't hide you anymore. I can't. Not when hiding you puts you in danger. Elena closed her eyes, feeling the last of her resistance crumble. He was right. She'd been so focused on protecting their secret, on not causing complications, that she'd let the situation escalate to this point. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Dante pulled back slightly, surprise flickering across his features. Okay? Call the police. Press charges. Tell whoever you need to tell. She managed a shaky smile. Just, maybe let me clean up first? I don't want to meet the cops looking like this. Something softened in Dante's expression, love and relief and lingering fury mixing into something almost unbearably tender. Marco, he said without looking away from Elena. Get the police here. Full statements, full documentation. I want charges filed before those 3 have time to coordinate their stories. On it, boss. Marco pulled out his phone, already dialing as he stepped back into the hallway. Alone again, Dante gathered Elena against him, one hand stroking her hair while the other held her steady. I'm sorry, he murmured. I'm so sorry this happened. Sorry I wasn't here sooner. Sorry I let you deal with their harassment alone. You didn't know, Elena said. I didn't tell you. I should have asked better questions. Should have pushed when I saw you were stressed. His arms tightened around her. I won't make that mistake again. They stood like that for several long minutes, Elena drawing strength from his solid presence, while Dante seemed to be physically reassuring himself that she was alive and whole. Finally, he pulled back slightly. Come on, he said. Let's get you cleaned up. The police will want photos of your injuries, but we can at least get you out of these clothes and into something more comfortable. He guided her toward the master bedroom, his arm never leaving her waist. Elena leaned into him, still shaky but feeling safer with each step. The adrenaline was starting to fade, leaving exhaustion and delayed shock in its wake. In the bathroom, Dante sat her on the edge of the massive soaking tub and carefully began cleaning the raw skin on her wrists. His touch was gentle, professional, but she could feel the rage still simmering beneath his controlled exterior. "I need you to tell me everything," he said as he worked. "Every comment they made, every time they made you uncomfortable, every incident, no matter how small it seemed." So Elena told him. About the whispers that stopped when she entered rooms, about the implication that she'd slept her way into her position, about Monica's barely veiled threats and the other staff's casual cruelty, about feeling isolated and afraid, caught between wanting to defend herself and not wanting to cause problems that might affect his business. Dante listened in silence, his jaw growing tighter with each revelation. When she finished, he set aside the first aid supplies and took both her hands in his. "This ends today," he said quietly. "All of it. The harassment, the hiding, the fear. You're moving in here permanently, not as staff, as my partner, as my girlfriend, as the woman I love." Elena's breath, caught. They'd never said the words before, had been too caught up in the secrecy and the impossible logistics of their relationship to name what they felt. "You love me?" she whispered. "Cristo, Elena." Dante's laugh was rough and raw. "I've loved you since you told me my reputation didn't scare you. Since you looked at me like I was a man instead of a monster. Since you made me want to be better than what I've become." He pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "And I will burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt you again." The police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 detectives from the Chicago PD's Special Victims Unit, who took one look at Elena's wrists and faces hardened with professional anger. Detective Sarah Chen, no relation to Monica despite the shared surname, photographed Elena's injuries with meticulous care, while her partner, Detective Marcus Webb, took preliminary statements. "Miss Reyes," Detective Chen said gently as she documented the raw, bleeding skin where the tape had torn away, "I need you to walk me through exactly what happened. Start from when you first realized something was wrong." Elena recounted the story again, her voice steadier now with Dante's solid presence beside her. He hadn't left her side, his hand resting on the small of her back, a constant reminder that she wasn't alone anymore. Detective Webb made notes, his pen scratching across the paper with sharp precision. "And the 3 women who did this? They're currently being held in a conference room downstairs? 22nd floor, conference room B," Marco supplied from the doorway. "Building security is maintaining custody until you're ready to take them in." "We'll need to interview them separately," Detective Chen said, straightening from her crouch beside Elena. "But first, I want to get you checked out by paramedics. That tape was on long enough to potentially cause breathing complications. I'd feel better if—" "I'm fine." Elena started to protest, but Dante's hand tightened against her back. "She'll be examined," he said quietly. "Whatever you recommend, Detective." Elena looked up at him, seeing the worry still etched in the lines around his eyes. He'd been holding it together through sheer force of will, but she could feel the tremor in his fingers, the tension radiating through his body. "Okay," she relented. "If it'll make everyone feel better, I'll see the paramedics." The examination was thorough and uncomfortable. The EMTs confirmed what Elena already knew: she had bruising on her wrists and ankles, torn skin from the adhesive, and elevated heart rate consistent with a panic response. But nothing life-threatening, nothing permanent. "You were lucky," the older EMT said as he finished wrapping her wrists in clean gauze. "Another hour with that tape over your mouth and you might have had real trouble. People don't realize how dangerous it is to restrict breathing like that, especially if someone has a panic response." Elena saw Dante's jaw clench at the words, his control slipping for just a moment before he locked it down again. After the paramedics left, Detective Chen returned with her notepad. "Miss Reyes, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Has Mr. Salvatore or anyone associated with him pressured you to press charges? Are you filing this complaint of your own free will?" The question hung in the air, loaded with implication. Elena understood what the detective was really asking. Was she a victim making her own choices, or was she being manipulated by a powerful man with a dangerous reputation? "No one pressured me," Elena said clearly. "Monica Chen, Jessica Park, and Tanya Williams assaulted me. They bound me against my will and left me in a position where I could have been seriously hurt. I want to press charges because what they did was criminal, not because anyone told me to." Detective Chen nodded slowly, her eyes moving between Elena and Dante with careful assessment. "And your relationship with Mr. Salvatore? The women claim they believed there was inappropriate conduct between you, that their actions, while misguided, were motivated by concern about a superior abusing his power over an employee. If you're hooked on this story, Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Elena felt anger flash hot through her chest. That's a lie. They weren't concerned about me. They were punishing me because they thought I didn't deserve my position, because they resented my assignment to this penthouse. But there is a relationship, Detective Chen pressed. Between you and Mr. Salvatore? Yes. Dante's voice cut through the tension before Elena could respond. There's a relationship, one that began months after Miss Reyes was assigned to my household, that was completely consensual, and that has nothing to do with her employment status. He stood, moving to face the detective directly. I understand you need to establish context, detective. But let me be very clear. Elena was never coerced into any relationship with me. She was never promised preferential treatment or threatened with retaliation. What exists between us is personal and has no bearing on what happened today, except that it gave the perpetrators a perceived motive, Detective Webb interjected. In their minds, they were punishing someone they believed was sleeping with the boss to get ahead. That doesn't excuse their actions, but it establishes that they felt entitled to assault someone based on assumptions and rumors. Elena interrupted, her voice sharp. Detective, I don't care what they thought or what story they're trying to sell. They tied me to a chair. They taped my mouth shut. They left me alone and terrified. Those are facts, not perceptions. Detective Chen's expression softened slightly. You're right, and those facts are what we'll build the case on. I just needed to understand all the angles before we proceed. She closed her notepad. We'll take the 3 women into custody now. They'll be processed, arraigned, and given the opportunity to post bail. Do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight, Miss Reyes? Somewhere they can't find you? She's staying here, Dante said. In my home, under my protection. And if I might suggest, Marco added from the doorway, we'll be increasing security protocols. No one enters this floor without explicit authorization. Elena will have a personal security detail whenever she leaves the building. Elena wanted to protest the security detail, wanted to argue that she didn't need guards following her around. But looking at Dante's face, seeing the fear still lurking beneath his controlled exterior, she couldn't bring herself to fight him on this. Okay, she said quietly. Whatever you think is best. Detective Chen gathered her things, exchanging a look with her partner that Elena couldn't quite interpret. We'll be in touch, Miss Reyes. You may need to come down to the station to give a more formal statement, but we have enough to make arrests tonight. After the detectives left with Marco to collect the 3 women from the conference room, silence settled over the penthouse like a heavy blanket. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted down to her bones, adrenaline crash leaving her shaky and hollow. Dante knelt in front of her, his hands covering hers where they rested in her lap. Talk to me, Amor. Tell me what you need. I don't know, Elena admitted, her voice small. I feel like I should be angrier. Like I should want revenge or justice or something concrete. But mostly I just feel tired and scared and relieved that you came home early. Why did you? She asked suddenly, looking up at him. Come home early, I mean. You never come home before 6. Something flickered across Dante's face. Guilt, regret, something deeper. I had a bad feeling. All day, I couldn't shake this sense that something was wrong. I tried to ignore it, told myself I was being paranoid. His grip tightened on her hands. But it kept getting worse, until finally I couldn't stand it anymore. I left a meeting halfway through and came straight here. Instinct, Elena murmured. Or fate, or divine intervention. I don't care what you call it. Dante's voice roughened. I just thank God I listened to it. If I'd stayed at that meeting, if I'd come home at my usual time, don't. Elena freed one hand to touch his face. Don't torture yourself with what-ifs. You came home. You found me. I'm okay. You're not okay, Dante said bluntly. You're hurt and traumatized and pretending to be stronger than you feel because you think I need you to be strong right now. The accuracy of his observation made Elena's throat tighten. Someone has to be strong. Not you. Not tonight. Dante rose, pulling her up with him. Tonight you get to fall apart if you need to. You get to be scared and angry and whatever else you're feeling. I'm strong enough for both of us. Elena felt her careful control start to crack, tears burning behind her eyes. I was so scared, Dante. When they were tying me up, when they put that tape over my mouth, I couldn't breathe properly and I thought, her voice broke. I thought, what if they don't come back? What if this is how I die? Alone and helpless in your dining room. Cristo, Dante breathed, pulling her against his chest. Elena, I'm so sorry. So sorry I wasn't there sooner. Sorry I didn't protect you better. Sorry I let those women think they could hurt you without consequences. It's not your fault, Elena said into his shirt, even as the tears finally came. You didn't know. I didn't tell you. I should have known anyway. Should have seen the signs. Should have asked better questions. His hand stroked her hair with infinite gentleness. But I was so focused on keeping our relationship secret, on maintaining appearances, that I missed what was happening right in front of me. They stood like that for a long time, Elena crying into his chest, while Dante held her together with the sheer force of his presence. Eventually the tears slowed, leaving her drained but somehow lighter, as if the emotional release had purged some of the poison from her system. Better? Dante asked softly when she finally pulled back to wipe her face. A little. Elena managed a watery smile. I probably look terrible. You look beautiful. The words were simple and absolute. You always look beautiful to me. Elena's phone buzzed on the nightstand, making them both tense. Dante reached for it first, checking the caller ID before handing it to her. Your brother, he said. Elena's stomach dropped. Carlos. She'd completely forgotten about her little brother, forgotten that he'd be expecting her usual evening call. She answered, trying to keep her voice steady. Hey, Carlos. Elena, thank God. I've been calling for an hour. Are you okay? Her brother's voice was tight with worry. I saw the news. Something about arrests at your building, police cars everywhere. What's going on? Elena closed her eyes, cursing the efficiency of Chicago's news cycle. Of course it would already be on television. A penthouse assault in one of the city's most exclusive buildings, involving the staff of Dante Salvatore. I'm okay, she said, aware of Dante listening to every word. There was an incident at work, but I'm safe. The police are handling it. An incident? Carlos's voice rose. Elena, don't give me that corporate speak. What happened? Were you hurt? Elena looked at Dante, seeing understanding in his eyes. He nodded slightly, giving permission for whatever she needed to tell her brother. Some coworkers attacked me, Elena said quietly. They tied me up as a prank that went too far. I'm okay now. I'm somewhere safe. The police arrested them. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long Elena thought they'd been disconnected. Then Carlos's voice came back, low and dangerous in a way that reminded her of their father. They attacked you? Tied you up? A pause. Elena, I'm coming up there. I'm getting on the next train to Chicago. Where are you exactly? No, Carlos, you don't need to anyone. Like hell I don't. Someone hurt my sister. I'm coming. Carlos, please. Elena pinched the bridge of her nose, feeling a headache building behind her eyes. I promise I'm okay. I'm being taken care of. You have physical therapy tomorrow, and your classes. You can't just drop everything. Watch me. Dante held out his hand for the phone, raising an eyebrow in silent question. Elena hesitated, then handed it over, curious what he'd say. Carlos, this is Dante Salvatore, he said, his voice carrying the quiet authority that made people listen. Your sister is safe in my home. She has the best medical care, police protection, and my personal security team ensuring nothing like this happens again. Elena could hear her brother's muffled response, something heated and protective. I understand your concern, Dante continued calmly. If I were in your position, I'd be on my way to Chicago right now, regardless of what anyone said. But I need you to trust that Elena is genuinely safe here. The people who hurt her are in custody. She's not alone. Another pause while Carlos responded. Yes, Dante said, his eyes meeting Elena's. We're together. Have been for several months. I know Elena wanted to tell you in person, wanted to explain things properly, but given the circumstances, I think honesty is more important than timing right now. Elena's heart hammered as she listened to her brother's response, unable to make out the words but hearing the tone shift from angry to confused to something else. I love her, Dante said simply. And I will use every resource I have to keep her safe. That's not a boast or a threat, it's a promise. To you, to her, to anyone who might consider hurting her in the future. He handed the phone back to Elena. He wants to talk to you. Elena took it with shaking hands. Carlos? So, her brother's voice was strange, caught between anger and something like wonder. Dante Salvatore. The Dante Salvatore. You've been dating one of Chicago's most powerful men, and didn't think to mention it? It's complicated, Elena said weakly. Yeah, I bet it is. Carlos laughed, but there was no humor in it. Elena, are you sure you're okay? Like really okay? Not just saying it to keep me calm? I'm really okay. Shaken up, but safe. Dante came home early and found me. The police have been here. I'm going to be fine. And this relationship? It's what you want? He's not pressuring you or, Carlos, no. God, no. Elena glanced at Dante, feeling warmth bloom in her chest despite everything. He's good to me. Really good. I just didn't tell you because it was new and complicated, and I didn't know how to explain it. Because he's rich and powerful and probably dangerous. Because I worked for him, Elena corrected, and herself, realizing that particular complication had just resolved itself. The logistics were messy, but the feelings are real. Carlos was quiet for a moment. Okay, I believe you. But Elena, I'm still coming up this weekend. I want to meet him properly. I want to see for myself that you're okay. Deal. Elena agreed, relieved. This weekend. I promise. After she ended the call, she looked at Dante. That went better than I expected. He loves you. He's worried. Dante pulled her close again. And he has every right to want to make sure you're safe. I'd respect him less if he didn't ask questions. A knock at the door interrupted them. Marco entered with his phone in hand, his expression grim. Boss, we have a situation. Dante's posture shifted instantly. The gentle boyfriend replaced by the businessman who'd built an empire on strategic thinking and calculated responses. What kind of situation? Monica Chen's father is Edward Chen, CEO of Chen International Holdings. He's already retained the best criminal defense attorney in Chicago and is threatening to sue everyone involved, the building, the police department, you personally for false imprisonment and defamation. Elena felt her stomach sink. Edward Chen. She'd heard the name, knew the family's reputation. Old money, political connections, the kind of power that could make problems disappear. Let him try, Dante said coldly. We have security footage of his daughter entering and leaving. We have Elena's injuries documented by police photographers and paramedics. We have the tape and the chair as physical evidence. He can threaten all he wants. The facts don't change. He's also claiming his daughter was provoked. Marco continued. Says Elena was having an inappropriate relationship with you and using it to get ahead. That Monica was trying to protect other staff members from a hostile work environment. That's insane, Elena breathed. I know. Dante's voice was granite. Marco, I want our legal team assembled immediately. I want every communication between Elena and those 3 women pulled from the building's servers. I want testimony from every staff member who witnessed their harassment, and I want Edward Chen to understand that threatening Elena or her reputation will result in consequences he can't imagine. Already on it, boss. But there's something else. Marco's expression darkened further. Monica's telling people that you've been using your position to coerce female staff into relationships. She's claiming there's a pattern of abuse, that Elena isn't the first. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Elena felt Dante go absolutely still beside her, the kind of stillness that preceded violence. That's a lie, Dante said, each word precisely enunciated. I have never, in my entire career, used my position to pressure anyone into any kind of relationship. Elena is the first and only member of my staff I've been involved with, and that relationship began months after her assignment here, was completely consensual, and has been hidden specifically to protect her from exactly this kind of accusation. I know that, boss, and we can prove it. But the accusation is out there now, and in this climate, accusations stick whether they're true or not. Marco's jaw tightened. Chen's playing dirty. He's trying to flip the narrative, make his daughter look like the victim who exposed workplace misconduct. Elena felt rage kindle in her chest, hot and bright. He's sacrificing me to protect his daughter, making me look like the problem to hide what she actually did. Yes, Marco confirmed, and it's working. The building's management is already talking about conducting their own investigation into workplace conduct. They're worried about liability. Let them investigate, Dante said. They'll find nothing, because there's nothing to find. But in the meantime, I want our own investigators digging into Monica Chen's background. Every social media post, every email, every piece of gossip. If she's accusing me of patterns of abuse, I want to know if she has her own patterns. Bullying, harassment, anything we can use to establish her credibility problem. Elena touched his arm. Dante, I don't want to turn this into a war. I just want them held accountable for what they did to me. This became a war the moment they decided to attack my character to escape consequences, Dante said, his voice still cold. I won't let them destroy your reputation to save themselves. And I won't let Edward Chen use his money and power to make this go away. He turned to Marco. Set up a meeting with our PR team. We're getting ahead of this story. I want a statement released tonight explaining exactly what happened, backed by evidence. Elena was assaulted by members of my staff. She filed a police report. 3 women were arrested. Those are the facts, and no amount of spin changes them. Got it. Anything else? Yes. Dante's expression shifted, becoming something harder and more dangerous. I want to know every business dealing Edward Chen has in Chicago. Every contract, every partnership, every investment. If he wants to threaten me, he should understand exactly how much he has to lose. Marco's smile was sharp and knowing. I'll have that information by morning. After Marco left, Elena sank onto the bed, feeling overwhelmed by the escalation. What had started as a horrible prank had exploded into something much larger: accusations, investigations, powerful families mobilizing resources. This is my fault, she said quietly. If I'd just kept my head down, if I hadn't gotten involved with you. Stop. Dante sat beside her, his hand finding hers. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault. Monica Chen and her friends made choices. Edward Chen is making choices. These are their actions, their consequences. But if we hadn't been together, then they would have found another reason to target you, Dante interrupted firmly. Elena, people like Monica don't need real justification for cruelty. They would have resented you anyway, for being young or pretty or competent, or any other arbitrary reason. Our relationship just gave them a convenient excuse. He turned her face toward him, making her meet his eyes. And I will never regret being with you. Not for 1 second. Not even if it makes things complicated. Elena felt tears threaten again. How can you be so sure? Because I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. Dante's thumb brushed across her cheek. Because you make me want to be better than what I am. Because coming home to you is the best part of my day. His voice dropped lower, more intense. Because when I walked into that dining room and saw you tied to that chair, I realized I would burn the entire world down to keep you safe. That's terrifying, Elena whispered. I know. Dante's smile was sad and self-aware. I know what I am, Elena. I know the darkness I'm capable of. But with you, I feel like maybe there's something worth salvaging in me. Maybe I'm not just the monster people think I am. You're not a monster, Elena said fiercely. You're a man who protects the people he loves. There's nothing monstrous about that. Even when protection looks like threats and investigations and using my power to destroy people? Even then. Elena took his face in her hands. Because you're protecting me from people who hurt me. That's not villainy, Dante. That's love. The word hung between them, acknowledged now in daylight rather than whispered in darkness. I do love you, Dante said, the words coming easier this time. Completely, probably more than is wise or safe. I love you too, Elena replied, feeling the truth of it settle into her bones. Even though this is complicated and messy and probably going to get worse before it gets better. Definitely going to get worse, Dante agreed. Edward Chen won't give up easily. The building management will cause problems. There will be gossip and speculation and people taking sides. So what do? We face it together. Dante stood, pulling her up with him. We tell the truth. We let the evidence speak for itself. And we refuse to be intimidated by people who think power means they can escape consequences. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. What is it? Elena asked. Email from my attorney. The building wants to place me on administrative leave pending their investigation into workplace conduct allegations. Dante's laugh was bitter. They're trying to distance themselves from the scandal, pretending they take these accusations seriously. Can they do that? Put you on leave from your own home? They can try. They're citing the building's code of conduct, saying that as a resident with employment relationships to building staff, I'm subject to the same rules as any other employer. Dante set the phone down with careful precision. They're covering their asses, making sure they can say they took action if this becomes a bigger story. What happens if they succeed? If they make you leave? They won't. Dante's voice carried absolute certainty. I own 40% of the building through shell companies. The building management works for me, whether they realize it or not. If they push this, I'll simply reveal my ownership stake and make it very clear who actually has authority here. Elena blinked. You own 40% of this building? 42%, actually. Spread across 3 holding companies to maintain privacy. Dante shrugged. I don't advertise it because I prefer people not knowing the full extent of my holdings, but I won't let them use bureaucracy to push me around. It was a reminder, sharp and sudden, of exactly who Dante Salvatore was. Not just a businessman or a boyfriend, but someone with resources and power that dwarfed normal people's comprehension. You could have, I mentioned that, Elena said weakly. It never seemed relevant before. Dante pulled her close. But now, with Chen trying to weaponize every institution he can reach, it's time to stop playing subtle. If he wants a war of resources, he'll discover very quickly that he's outmatched. I don't want you to do something you'll regret, Elena said. Don't compromise your principles or your business just to protect me from gossip. Amore, protecting you is worth any compromise. Dante's voice was absolute. And as for regrets, the only thing I regret is not making our relationship public sooner. Not claiming you openly where everyone could see. He pulled back to look down at her. Which is why tomorrow, we're going to have dinner at Lucia's, the restaurant on Michigan Avenue where everyone who matters in Chicago goes to see and be seen. We're going to sit at a prime table, and I'm going to introduce you as my girlfriend to every person who stops by. Elena's eyes widened. That's a big statement. It's the right statement. No more hiding. No more letting people think you're just staff, or that there's anything shameful about what we have. Dante's jaw set with determination. By tomorrow night, everyone in Chicago's business and social circles will know exactly who you are and what you mean to me. And if that makes things worse, if it gives Chen more ammunition, then let him use it. I'd rather fight this battle in the open than let him control the narrative with whispers and insinuations. Dante's hands framed her face. I want you by my side, Elena. Publicly. Permanently. No more hiding in the shadows. Elena felt something shift in her chest, a weight she hadn't realized she'd been carrying suddenly lifting. Okay, she said. Lucia's tomorrow. Full public debut. I just have one condition. Name it. I want to call Carlos back and warn him. If we're going public tomorrow, it'll be everywhere by the weekend. He should hear it from me first. Of course. Dante handed her the phone. Call him now. Take your time. I need to make a few calls of my own anyway. As Elena dialed her brother's number, she watched Dante move to the window, his phone already pressed to his ear, his voice dropping into that cold, commanding tone that meant business. She was stepping into his world completely now. No more half measures, no more careful compartmentalization. Tomorrow, Chicago would know she belonged to Dante Salvatore, and God help anyone who tried to hurt her after that. Carlos answered on the second ring. Everything okay? You never call back this quick unless something's wrong. Everything's fine, Elena assured him. But I need to tell you something. About Dante and me. About what's going to happen tomorrow. She could hear her brother settling in for a long conversation. I'm listening. So, Elena told him. About the relationship. About the decision to go public. About what it would mean for both of them. Carlos listened without interrupting, and when she finished, his response surprised her. About time, he said simply. I've been waiting for you to stop hiding and actually live your life. You're not upset? Elena, you've spent 2 years taking care of me, working double shifts to pay my medical bills, sacrificing everything to make sure I could get the treatment I needed. Don't you think it's time you let someone take care of you for a change? Elena's throat tightened. I don't need anyone to take care of me. Maybe not. But you deserve someone who wants to anyway. Carlos's voice softened. And if this guy makes you happy, if he loves you enough to face down Edward Chen and half of Chicago society, then I'm on his side. It's going to get messy, Elena warned. The accusations, the investigation, the gossip. So what, you've handled worse. We've handled worse. Carlos laughed. Remember when Dad died and we had nothing? When we lived in that studio apartment with heat that only worked half the time? We survived that. We'll survive some rich people talking trash. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. When did you get so wise? Probably around the time you stopped treating me like a kid who needs protecting. Her brother's voice carried gentle reproach. I'm 22, Elena. I can handle hard truths. And the truth is, you found someone who loves you. That's worth fighting for. After she ended the call, Elena found Dante still on his phone, but wrapping up his conversation. Good, he was saying. First thing tomorrow morning. I want everything documented and ready to present to the board. A pause. No, I don't care about their feelings. They should have thought about loyalty before they started entertaining Chen's threats. He ended the call and turned to Elena. Your brother, okay? He's good. Surprisingly supportive, actually. Elena moved to stand beside him at the window, looking out at the Chicago skyline lit up against the night. Told me it was about time I stopped hiding and lived my life. Smart man. Dante wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her against his side. I'm going to like him. He said the same thing about you. Elena leaned into him, letting his warmth and solidity ground her. This is really happening, isn't it? Tomorrow we're going to walk into Lucia's and announce to all of Chicago that we're together. Yes. Dante pressed a kiss to the top of her head. And then we're going to deal with whatever fallout comes. Together. Together. Elena repeated, testing the word. It felt right, solid, like something she could build a future on. They stood there for a long time, watching the city lights and drawing strength from each other's presence. Tomorrow would bring challenges, accusations to face, reputations to defend, power plays to navigate. But tonight, in the safety of Dante's penthouse with his arms around her, Elena finally felt like she could breathe. She was done hiding, done apologizing for loving someone, done letting other people's cruelty dictate her choices. Tomorrow, Chicago would know exactly who Elena Reyes was, and anyone who had a problem with it would have to answer to Dante Salvatore. Lucia's restaurant glowed like a jewel box on Michigan Avenue, its walls lined with mirrors that reflected candlelight and the glittering crowd of Chicago's elite. Elena's hand trembled slightly as Dante helped her from the car, his fingers threading through hers with steady confidence. Breathe, he murmured against her ear. You're stunning, and everyone in there is about to know exactly how lucky I am. Elena smoothed the deep emerald dress Dante had insisted on buying that afternoon, feeling exposed and powerful in equal measure. The silk clung to her curves, elegant and expensive, transforming her from maid to someone who belonged on Dante Salvatore's arm. The maitre d' recognized Dante immediately, his eyes widening slightly when he saw Elena, but recovering with professional smoothness. Mr. Salvatore, your table is ready. Right this way. They walked through the dining room, and Elena felt every conversation pause, every eye turned to assess this unexpected development. She recognized faces from society pages and business sections, old money and new power, all gathered to see and be seen. Dante kept his hand on the small of her back, possessive and proud, guiding her to a corner table that somehow managed to be both intimate and highly visible. Dante. A silver-haired man in an impeccable suit approached before they could sit. I heard there was some unpleasantness at your building yesterday. I hope everything's been resolved? Charles? Dante shook his hand firmly. Actually, I'm glad you're here. I'd like you to meet Elena Reyes, my girlfriend. Elena, this is Charles Morrison, who sits on the board of Chen International Holdings. Elena saw the calculation flash across Morrison's face, the immediate understanding of what this introduction meant. She offered her hand, with a confidence she didn't quite feel. A pleasure, Miss Reyes. Morrison's handshake was brief but respectful. I hope you weren't too affected by yesterday's incident. I'm recovering, Elena said quietly, though I'm sure you've heard Edward Chen's version of events. I've heard several versions, Morrison admitted, which is why I'm reserving judgment until the facts come out. His eyes moved to Dante. Though I will say, Edward's been quite vocal about filing lawsuits and demanding resignations. Let him demand, Dante said calmly. The evidence speaks for itself. 3 women assaulted Elena in my home. They've been arrested and charged. No amount of money or influence changes those facts. Morrison nodded slowly. Between you and me, Edward's overplaying his hand, making threats he can't back up, alienating people who might have been sympathetic. He glanced at Elena. I'm sorry you were hurt, Miss Reyes, and I hope justice is served appropriately. After he left, more people approached. Business associates, social acquaintances, even a few members of the media who happened to be dining there. Each time, Dante introduced Elena the same way his girlfriend, his partner, the woman who'd been assaulted by employees enabled by systemic failures. He was controlling the narrative in real time, Elena realized, making it impossible for Chen's version to take hold when everyone who mattered had heard the truth directly from Dante himself. You're brilliant, she murmured when they finally had a moment alone. I'm protective, Dante corrected, his hand finding hers across the table. There's a difference. Their dinner arrived, but Elena barely tasted it. She was too aware of the watching eyes, the whispered conversations, the way Chicago's power structure was realigning itself around this new information. Then, Edward Chen himself entered the restaurant. Elena felt Dante tense beside her, his entire demeanor shifting from relaxed to predatory in an instant. Chen was exactly what she'd expected: silver-haired authority in a custom suit, flanked by what were probably lawyers or bodyguards. He spotted them immediately. For a moment, Elena thought he might ignore them, but Chen was too arrogant for that. He approached their table with the confidence of a man who'd never faced real consequences. "Salvatore," Chen said coldly, "I see you're still in Chicago. I expected you'd have been escorted from the building by now." "Edward," Dante didn't stand, a calculated insult. "How's Monica? I heard she's facing felony charges. Assault, false imprisonment, conspiracy. That's 10 to 15 years if the DA pushes for maximum sentencing." Chen's face darkened. "My daughter made a mistake in judgment, nothing more. Your employee was having an inappropriate relationship with you, using her position for personal gain. Monica was trying to expose workplace misconduct by tying her to a chair and taping her mouth shut." Dante's voice was deadly quiet. "That's an interesting definition of workplace advocacy. That's your version of events. Monica says it was a prank that Miss Reyes overreacted to, that she's exaggerating her injuries to create a case where none exists." Elena felt anger flash hot through her. She stood, meeting Chen's eyes directly. "Mr. Chen, I have photographs of my injuries, medical documentation, police reports, security footage showing your daughter and her friends entering and leaving. What exactly do you think I'm exaggerating?" Chen's gaze raked over her with dismissive contempt. "I think you're a young woman who saw an opportunity to trap a wealthy man by playing victim. I think you encouraged inappropriate attention from your employer, and now you're leveraging it for financial gain. Be very careful what you say next," Dante said, standing now. His voice carried the kind of quiet menace that made people step back. "You're in a public restaurant, surrounded by witnesses, accusing Elena of crimes with no evidence. I have evidence of your pattern of inappropriate relationships with staff. No, you have lies your daughter told to escape accountability." Dante stepped closer. "But here's what I have, Edward. I have documentation of every business dealing you've done in Chicago for the past 5 years. Every contract, every partnership, every slightly questionable decision that probably wouldn't survive close scrutiny." Chen paled slightly. "Are you threatening me? I'm informing you of reality. You weaponized your wealth and influence to protect your daughter from consequences. Now I'm using mine to ensure justice is served." Dante's smile was cold. "The difference is, my actions are protecting an actual victim. Yours are shielding a criminal." "This isn't over," Chen hissed. "I will destroy you for this. Your reputation, your business, everything. You're welcome to try." Dante pulled out his phone, tapping the screen. "I just sent you an email, Edward." "Open it." Chen pulled out his phone with shaking hands. His face went from red to white as he read whatever Dante had sent. "That's documentation of every board member at Chen International who's expressed concerns about your leadership," Dante continued conversationally. "Detailed accounts of decisions that cost shareholders millions. Evidence of personal expenses charged to corporate accounts. And a list of investors I've quietly contacted about a potential vote of no confidence." "You bastard," Chen breathed. "I prefer to think of myself as thorough." Dante's expression was granite. "Here's what's going to happen, Edward. Your daughter is going to plead guilty to reduced charges. She'll serve community service, attend therapy, and stay the hell away from Elena. In exchange, I won't destroy your company and your reputation. And if I refuse, then you'll lose everything. Your position, your wealth, your standing, all to protect a daughter who assaulted an innocent woman because she felt entitled to punish someone she resented." Dante leaned in closer. "Is Monica really worth losing your empire, Edward?" The silence stretched. Elena could see the calculation in Chen's eyes, the war between paternal instinct and self-preservation. "I need to speak with my lawyers," Chen said finally. "You have 48 hours. Dante straightened. "After that, my offer expires, and I proceed with scorched earth." "Your choice." Chen left without another word, his entourage scrambling to follow. The restaurant buzzed with excitement, everyone pretending they hadn't just witnessed a power play that would be discussed in boardrooms for months. Dante sat back down, his hand immediately reaching for Elena's. "You okay?" "I'm furious," Elena admitted. "He called me a gold digger. Accused me of lying about being assaulted." "I know." Dante's thumb stroked across her knuckles. "And now everyone in this restaurant heard him do it. Which means they also heard me dismantle his accusations with facts. By tomorrow, his reputation will be in worse shape than Monica's." Elena took a shaky breath. "Will he take the deal?" "He'll take it. He has no choice. Dante smiled grimly. Edward Chen is a businessman first, father second. He won't sacrifice his empire for Monica's mistakes. 3 days later, Elena stood in the courthouse as Monica Chen, Jessica Park, and Tanya Williams entered guilty pleas to misdemeanor assault charges. They each received 6 months of community service, mandatory counseling, and restraining orders, keeping them away from Elena. It wasn't the full justice Elena had wanted, but watching Monica's face as she admitted guilt, seeing the fear and humiliation in her eyes, provided its own satisfaction. Edward Chen had taken Dante's deal. Monica's criminal record would limit her employment options forever, and Elena was free. That night, back in the penthouse that was now officially her home, Elena found Dante on the balcony watching the city lights. "It's really over," she said, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "The legal part is over," Dante agreed. "But we're just beginning." He turned in her arms, something serious in his expression. "Elena, I need to ask you something important." Her heart jumped. "Okay, move in with me, not as an arrangement or temporary solution, but as your home. Our home." His hands framed her face. "I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to build a life with you that doesn't involve hiding or fear, or wondering if we're making the right choice." "I already said yes to moving in," Elena reminded him, smiling. "I know, but I wanted to ask properly, when you weren't traumatized and I wasn't furious and we could make the decision clearly." His thumbs brushed across her cheekbones. "So I'm asking now. Will you make this place yours? Will you build a future here with me?" Elena felt tears prick her eyes, but these were happy tears, relief and joy and hope all mixed together. "Yes, to all of it, yes," Dante kissed her. Then, deep and claiming, pouring months of hidden feeling into the contact. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "I love you, Elena Reyes, and I'm going to spend every day proving you made the right choice." "I know I did," Elena whispered, "because you already have." 6 months later, Elena stood in that same penthouse wearing a different dress, white this time, simple and elegant, surrounded by the people who mattered most. Carlos in his wheelchair, beaming with pride, Dante's closest friends and associates, and no staff, no hierarchy, no one to judge or question what they'd built together. Judge Morrison, the same man who'd approached them at Lucia's that first night, smiled as he pronounced them husband and wife. "You may kiss your bride," he said, and Dante did, in front of everyone, claiming her publicly one more time. The girl who'd been bound and silenced had found her voice. The man who'd built walls had found someone, worth tearing them down for. And together, they'd built something stronger than secrets, more powerful than shame, more enduring than fear. They'd built a love worth fighting for. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.